This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.
Pushing and pulling, I want you, but you won't leave. I hate you, I love you, you love me, yeah, you gotta be. If I'm your cage, leave. But if you stay with me, eventually we'll find happy.
Should I go left? Should I go right?
Greetings, people. Here we go again for another show of the Passage Home podcast starring the Dr. Stanley Rushing. But before we go ahead and get into this podcast, I want to go ahead and bring in our engineer and my partner for our other podcast. I can relate to that. Mr. AJ, he has an announcement that he wants to make. AJ.
Bax, thank you. Thank you for introducing me. Yes, I do everything in the background for Passage Home. I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do so. I just want to typically, an engineer typically doesn't pop onto other people's podcasts, but I want to share some good news with you guys. As about an hour ago, I got an email for another platform that is actually hosting your podcast. You guys are on now iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
Yes.
Wow.
iHeartRadio. I just got the approval about an hour ago. I got the email finally, and I was able to test it, and it is there. So you guys are you're growing, guys. You're certainly growing.
We are expanding, man. That's a blessing, man. That is great. I'm excited about that.
Absolutely.
Right.
I just want to say congratulations and
That's amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Bax,
Yeah.
thanks for talking about our podcast that me and you are on. I can relate to that.
Yes, sir.
God, we have something like 25 episodes in the can already, so we're on our major platforms for that. Go ahead and search for on the major platforms. I can relate to that. We're on Podbean. We're on Apple. We are on TuneIn Radio, Spotify, our iHeartRadio, Google, and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Castbox. So we're on those platforms. Do a simple search for I can relate to that. We mainly talk about all funny things in the news, things that we can relate to when we were kids, and talk about our kids and our families and things that's going on in everybody's lives. So I'm sure we could all could relate to that. So that's all I got, guys. So thanks for letting me.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Definitely
And for the
appreciate you, man.
audience that's listening, we just found out when you just found out that we were on iHeart. And so my response is, that's amazing. And let's keep it rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. So let's keep it rolling. Dr. Stanley Rushing, what are we talking about? What do you have for us today? What is the discussion?
Yes, sir. We're going to talk about mentors, but I just want to reach back into the last podcast on something that you mentioned, which jumped out at me because it's been an integral part of my life. And that was when you said party with a purpose. And in the last episode, I spoke about went to college and I was informed by my teacher that most blacks who were in college were majoring more in cafeteria and hallway than they was in anything that had math in it. And was just exactly what I saw when I got there. Was the cafeteria had whist tournaments. A lot of people were surfing the hallway. They weren't in classes. And when I went up and looked in the little slot through the door, it was exactly like he said that I saw in the engineering, in the petroleum engineering classes. I saw Nigerians, I saw Pakistanis, I saw Israelis, I saw Lebanese, but in very, very few, if any, blacks. But in the cafeteria, I never learned how to play cards, but I know they were playing bid whist, trying to run a Boston, and 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 um and so when I got involved in college, I kept my head to the grind. We didn't even go down to the cafeteria. We sent somebody, and we stayed in class. We kept our nose in the books and trying to get as much as we could, and play with our teacher. Played jazz all the time, and we kept our our hopes up to get as much as we could as with regardless of what was going on around us. But today we're gonna. I'm speaking about that because I learned through the mentors that I've had how to party, but make sure your party has a purpose. And so I want to introduce some of my mentors because it's through me being woke and the Most High started placing people in my path that led me along the path that allowed my life to go on steroids. You know, once I learned how to listen to a mentor, everything else, my whole life went by like a flash. And next thing I knew, I was retired. Looking back, you know, with the people on the people that I have been able to bless, like I was blessed. You know, it's like that dash almost on a gravestone where it said from here to there. That dash is, you know, what I experienced. You know, I've been retired for 13 years now, and I still have students who find me on Facebook as a result of me having good mentors, receive great mentorship from me, and they've gone from welfare to millionaires.
Wow.
And so
Well, that's a
I
beautiful
just
thing
want,
because you definitely my mentor, and I'm trying to go from well, it was definitely not welfare, but I'm definitely trying to get to the millionaire. So we almost
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, and so uh, some of the mentors in my past, Joe Banks Senior and Junior. Joe Banks was a elder brother who taught me ethics in construction, and that made the difference of being a contractor or a scammer. And everything he did was exemplary for teaching me how to go. But I don't think I had it in my blood, but to have a brother of his caliber show me things, little details about how to work and how to perform on a level where when people are not watching you, that you're doing the right thing. And would just show people, because back then most of the contractors, black and white, were scamming people and taking their money, you know, to train other young adults under him, and taught in training schools way back in the early 70s. And so, but that was the integral part. For instance, working in a training program, we got jobs to do, and so some of the teachers took on contracting jobs just to train the students. And one guy that was teaching, he took on some HUD houses, fell through, but he met a guy by the name of Larry Simmons, who was a progressive brother on the south side of Chicago, wanted to build a house, was building a house in a very, at the time, exclusive area that was called Pill Hill. And Pill Hill was called that because mostly black doctors and lawyers lived in the area. And so he's building his house on the ground. So he reached out. This brother had a heart for working with black people. And so several black contractors had run off with his deposit. And his wife told him, she said, Larry, please just go and get a white contractor so we can get this house built. But he reached out to, the last person he reached out was with an instructor that was in our program. So he took it on. Larry looking at the fact that he can benefit some young brothers and stuff. But then the guy, the teacher, did not finish the job, left him hanging. And when Joe Banks, who I was working under, he took upon himself and he took me, and we finished the work on this guy's house, did not charge him any money, made sure that he was left in a better position than he was, and the fact that he wanted him to know that all black contractors weren't con artists. And we developed a lifelong relationship from that. And so I did other business for him later in life, because he opened up a business in Chicago, disco back in the 70s that lasted 40 years. One of the longest lasting black businesses in Chicago of that caliber. And the same thing happened to him there. He brought in black contractors. They couldn't finish the place. And so the bank was pressing him to get open. And I happened to run into his wife, and I was able to come back in again and help him get open in time. So I learned ethics from Joe Banks. Joe Banks was one of the biggest contractors in Chicago, but he walked softly, but carried a very big stick. He graduated as an architect in the South, and he moved his family up north. And when he got here, he had a choice between doing a 2-year apprenticeship to get his architect license at $3.25, or getting a job as a plasterer, which was a master plasterer. He chose to take care of his family. And he got a job working for a guy by the name of Richmond. Richmond was worth $100 million back then. He owned just about every other building on Lakeshore Drive all the way to Evanston. And then when you got to Evanston, he owned the Belmont Hotel, which was so large that it took 600 men almost 5 years to remodel it. So he was in control of all workers. And so, I mean, he handled it. You know, he never raised his voice, you know, but Richmond also owned half of Galena, Illinois. Galena, Illinois is Lincoln's birthplace. And so it's a historic town. And so he did work there. He did work, and we actually did work in Richmond's private estate, which he didn't allow many people in it around personally. And so when we did that work, the work that we did, he would teach me the most important thing about doing construction work is the cleanup. You know, because he say if the place is dirty, nobody's going to look at your work. They're going to look at the mess you left. And so let me move on. I can talk a while about this brother, but he instilled in me the ethics about working.
also shows the importance of a black man, especially
Right.
having a mentor that's leading him down the right path. Because if we pay attention to how life works, we see that black men are very influential, and they could be
Right.
influenced the right way, or they can be influenced the wrong way. And I'm glad that you ran into your mentor that influenced you the right way, and I'm glad that I ran into you, who's definitely a great influence on me. So yeah, keep going.
Right. So next, I'm gonna mention Thurman King and Jesse Kemp. Now, these were two brothers who really were amazing to me. Jesse Kemp was a guy. He's what they call a remodeling carpenter, and if people may say, that's a jackleg, or that's a handyman. They are a rare breed. That's like when people laugh at a community organizer, but community organizers become presidents and stuff. And because of the skills that they have, that people are laughing at, they don't encompass what the power of working on that level. Jesse Kemp blew my mind, and he made me tell myself. I asked the question: how could one man be able to do what he did? And so, this is how I always approach my mentors. When I saw what they could do, I never complained about what they did because I knew what they can do. I've on the west side of Chicago, Jesse Kemp, we did basements, we did dormers, which is putting a bedroom in the attic. We did kitchens and we did bathrooms. Jesse Kemp broke the mold, and he did something that they taught you in the unions not to do. And because when you go into a union, they tell you you can only do one thing, and if you do anything else, you're a jackleg. And what they meant by that, there is a jack of all trades and a master of none. But in the union, they were more specific. They said you are basically a jack off and a masturbator. If you are trying to attempt to do anything other than plumbing, carpentry, or an electrical. And so I was very versatile. And when I saw what Jesse could do, we can go into a basement that was full of junk and just dogs down there, for years. And he would go in there, and he could take an old fuse box that had screw-in fuses, and he would put in a circuit. First thing he would do is put in a circuit panel box for the whole house. Bring in another 100 amps to make it 220 availability. And, so everything is on a circuit. So you ain't got lights going out when plugs blow, because you're never supposed to put lights and plugs on the same circuit. So I'm learning. I watched him do this the first time. So he goes in his basement and he replaces everything. There's no bathroom down there. He did the rough plumbing, which means that he broke into the sewer line, tied it in, put arranged the plumbing to do the plumbing for the bathtub and for the sink and for the toilet, all going down the drain, not overloading anything, because this is in the basement, is the first one to be used. Brought in water lines, all copper, soldered everything together, tiled the bathroom, put up drywall and green board so it doesn't cause mold. I mean, everything according to code and beyond code. When he did the drywall, say for somebody, these people were paying $5,000 back in the 70s. And so every bit of what he did, when he put up walls, he didn't just put up 2x4s and paneling. He would put up 2x4s. He would run all the electrical so that every 8 feet there was an electrical outlet, so you have to run those extension cords for anything. Then he would put up 5 to 8 stick drywall, which fireproof, had a hour rating on the studs, because if you put paneling on studs, you create a fire hazard. So he would put up drywall first, then he would put up authentic thick pine paneling and stuff, was beautiful. But then he paid $30 a gallon for fireproofing to put over that, so that it wasn't a fire trap down there and stuff. And then he put in a laundry room, everything like it's new construction.
So let me ask you this question: who taught him all of this? Like, where did he learn? Who was his mentor?
Well, what he did was he broke the rules. To be a contractor, which we understand, you just to get a contractor's license, you have to be proficient in 3 trades. And so he learned those trades to become a contractor. Except for he was a remodeling contractor. But let me tell you what this does. The fact that you can do those trades, you make more money, because you ain't got to call in 5 different contractors to do a job, and they're stumbling over each other, and each one of them wants $1,500. So what he was teaching me was a skill that was amazing. I was blown away, and I was saying, "Wow, you can do this!" And so I was thirsty at that point, and I learned it at a point where by the time I was 19, I had my own company, and I was making $5,300 every 3 weeks working for a major remodeling company in Chicago, and we did their first $1 million a year in kitchens and bathrooms. But this was going back to my mentors and the fact that people, I approve of all of the hazing. That I don't care if it's military, if it's a sorority, if it's a gang or whatever. The reason why they haze you is they know they're giving you something that's going to last you the rest of your life. They just want to know if you're serious about it, and when you get it, will you handle it appropriately? And so I used to get hazed all the time. I was a vegetarian back then, and he used to always complain and say, "Boy, you need to eat some meat. That's why you can't keep up. You need to eat some meat and stuff." And so I took all that. And what they want you to walk away, because if you stay, the fact that you stayed, they can endow you with something that's going to bless you for the rest of your life. And so I was humble. I could care less about what he was saying about me and stuff, the insults and of what I thought was right and stuff. And so, but I learned to do all that. So when he left the basement, he had a brand new tile floor, from the floor to the ceiling. He put in a suspended ceiling. It was like a new apartment down there. Bedrooms had locks that locked from the inside. Bathroom, they had bathroom locks on it. 8 feet apart, all outlets around. In the laundry area, they had 220 if you have electric dryer or whatever. Water was ran specifically for the laundry sink, and so when you walked downstairs, you had a whole new apartment. And it was fireproof, and it was safe. And he had to do all that he did on his own. He got the money to do this. He could have put the paneling up over just studs and created a fire trap. And nobody would have thought nothing about it. They would just say it looked good. And so next, then Thurman King, who was his partner. Thurman King was an alpha male who lived across the street from me, and he was a very intelligent brother. He had been a school teacher. He had been a detective way back then in a racist police department, and he left all that to become a remodeling carpenter. But he was so sharp that they brought him into the office. And when they took him into the office, he became a salesman because he could make more money selling the job and he could get deeper into the black community. And so the average job that he sold was about $3,000 to $7,000, and for that meant that you couldn't get paid until you got a completion slip. So for black people, they had spent more money, and the Jewish company that we were working for was called First Metropolitan Builders, and they charged their interest rates on it was high, but they afforded a lot of people to get work done. And so, but to get that the completion slip was a beast, because after they signed that, they had to start paying. And so the first 5 contractors that he hired were old enough to be my grandfather. And they all got ran off the job. So he came to me because he knew that I trained under him and Jesse. And so for my first 5 jobs, I had to complete jobs that the guys old enough to be my grandfather had been physically banned out of people's houses, and they didn't even know nothing about construction. Because when you call a plumber to put in a garbage disposal, that means he needs to know that he needs to first of all, he needs to create an outlet under the sink that's on a 20 amp circuit, that's not on a circuit with anything else, because a garbage disposal has a surge. And that's one. Most plumbers don't know electricity. And if they call electricity, he gonna charge about $300 to put that outlet in. So if you don't know electricity, you're not making no money. You mad, and you got to charge an extra $300. So I learned all that from Jesse, how to put a circuit panel in, and how to add something and make it independent of everything else, because you can't plug the thing into where the refrigerator goes, because once they both serve at the same time, you're going to blow a fuse. And so I would come in on the job, and I would go in, take care of everything, and be on my way out with the completion slips line. And a lot of black women told me when I was signing the completion slip, they said, when you came here and I opened the door, I saw you standing there with your tools, and I looked out to see, because I thought you were bringing your tools for your granddad. And before I knew it, you had corrected, and I'm signing this because you did a good job. And I did that for the first 5, and after that, he started giving me jobs. And for every 2 weeks, we did a $3,000 or $4,000 job, and I trained a crew that could work when I wasn't even there. We were all under the age of 25.
Oh, that's awesome.
But,
so what I take from you and what you're saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, every man needs a mentor, and not only does every man need a mentor, every man needs a trade. Every man needs to be able to do something with his hands that can generate some type of income for him and his family. Am I right or wrong?
Right. Okay. Well, let me get into a moment. You're making me skip, because I want to, before AJ plays that music, I want to get to Baba Daniel, one of my spiritual mentors. And then he had a spiritual mentor, and the combination of the two of them took me through where I never had to deal in my life with situations that I didn't have to deal with, and which took, and it's like the Most High putting all these little ingredients in front of me, and I was soaking them all up. And when I met Baba Danielle, when I left high school, I was in college. I was working hard. I didn't have a direction, but he taught me nationalism and a direction to go. He got me into agriculture. He said a nation needs to be able to feed itself, and we got into water and health and all those things. But what piqued my curiosity is when it's like it was a message from the Most High. When he asked me this one question, he said, what are you going to be doing with all those things that you're doing? And so before I can answer it, say, do me a favor, just make sure you can go anywhere in the world and be able to take care of your family, whatever you're doing, you know. And so I sat there and I thought about it, because at that time, one of my greatest heroes was James Bond. And I was so fascinated by watching James Bond go anywhere in the world, and he went from one country to the next, but he was set up to be able to take care of himself and in any situation in any place in the world and survive and live a good life. And so what I said to myself, wow, if I could do that, I'll be just like James Bond. And so, funny or not, that's what people call me today, because I can go anywhere in the world and survive. Food is there for me. People know me. Presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors. I get ambassadors that call me at 3 o'clock in the morning their time, to catch me at my time. I'm available like 24 hours, working on things on a very high governmental level, and with solutions, diplomatic solutions and things, and openings that can change countries and things. But it all back to the mentors. Baba Danielle taught me about culture, language, religion, and how spirituality come into play, and how to discern between religion and spirituality. And when we met with his mentor, these things I'll never forget. When I met with Baba Nathaniel said some things that I never got out of my mind. He told me, he said, when you go out, he said, shine your light where people want to come and see it. Don't have a spotlight where you blind people with the truth. Both of them are the truth, but it's how you use it. And he said, don't ever argue with anybody over religion and things like that, because you serve a God who can back himself up. All you got to do is convey the message. It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict people. And if you find yourself where you trying to make a logical argument about what you believe in, then that's just you. But if you convey the message, the Holy Spirit, if that's his job to convict people, you can't intellectually convict anybody. And so it don't work that way, and you are out of order for trying to do that. Because we used to get into debates with Muslims and with this, with that. Just drop the science. Let the science do what it's supposed to do, and you sit back and watch also. Because we ain't got no backup on the spiritual level. Then what are you doing in the first place?
Wow.
And so that kept me out of a lot of debates, arguments, and things over the years, and prevailed me for it. But then came a master builder that I met back then. This brother, he was a mentor, and he asked me, he said, you really want to do this? You want to do this? This guy was a plumber, but he mastered commercial building, period, on any level, concrete, I mean, I learned how to build circular concrete stairs from this brother. You know, and he was a plumber, but and he was a city plumber where he was putting in pipes big enough to stand up in, and he was 6 foot tall and stuff, welding pipes together. I mean,
It's awesome. I really thank God for the ability, and just the availability of those men there for you, because some people don't have those men, and then some people that do have those men as mentors, some of those people won't even pay attention to them. They'd rather be doing other things, like you said. They'd rather they'd rather be somewhere in the lunchroom, taking every lunch, knowing it's only one lunch, but they'd rather be in all lunches, So, man, that was definitely a good show, Mr. Stanley Rushing. I really like the concept of mentor and the concept of picking up some type of trade or some type of craft, something that you could do with your hand. That was really inspirational, and it makes me feel like, okay, well, I need to get some more mentors. You help me with health, you help me with a lot of different things. But I definitely need to get some more mentors, and I definitely need to pick up some trades for myself and for my sons. That's really an awesome thing, man. So definitely, people, I appreciate y'all listening to us. If you get a chance, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the Passage Home podcast. Have a great day, great evening. Be blessed.
Yes, sir. Give thanks.
Left, should I go right? What I'm doing, investing in your life. Time wasted, my body loves it, my mind hates it. Fights in public and we can't erase it. Everybody saw, should've seen their faces. Face it, it's only love when we naked, that's basic. I'm trying to fly like a spaceship and take it beyond the stars, beyond the sun. Remember when it all was fun? All I had to do was call, you come. And now I can't feel at all, I'm numb. And you don't hold me down, you hold me back. Back then, I wish you would've showed me that. All we do is fight, go tick for tack. This my last night, this shit's a wrap.